Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, Seazuan and everyone. Today, my friends and I will present to you our topic, which is issue of poverty. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Afwan bin Hajiman. So now we will move on to the executive summary and the introduction. Malaysia economic development has been rapidly increased since independence, with the major sector shifting away from raw commodity export and toward industrialization and manufacturing exports. Nonetheless, not all citizens are able to completely benefit from the country's economic success, as poverty remains a concern in Malaysia. So the objective of this study consists of to understand what is poverty, to investigate the issues and problems regarding poverty in Malaysia, to identify the possible implication of poverty in Malaysia, and the last one is to provide recommendation towards the poverty issues and problems in Malaysia. So, poverty is defined by more than just a lack of income. It includes economic, social, and government aspects as well. And meanwhile, according to Suzuki, Pramono, and Rufida 2017, stated that poverty has been measured and researched in terms of the causes or elements that contribute from different aspects of life. Economically, the poor are limited not only of cash and resources, but also of opportunity. Since of limited capability and geographical and social barriers, market and occupations are frequently difficult to reach. The disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic intensified the forces of conflict and climate change that were already impeding poverty reduction progress in 2020, causing global extreme poverty to rise for the first time in more than 20 years. As a result of this epidemic or this pandemic, an additional 120 million people are living in poverty, with the total anticipated to climb to 150 million by the end of 2021, according to the World Bank 2021. Uh, in this case study, we will be focusing on the poverty issue in Malaysia, which is urgent concern. From the history in 1971 until 1990, the Malaysian government implemented the new economic policy, which aimed to promote the country growth. The new economic policy principles aim to reduce and to abolish obsolete poverty and to rebuild society in order to remedy economic imbalances. However, there is no end to these difficulties. This could be due to an equal wealth distribution and urban poverty. According to the Economic Planning Unit, poverty remained prevalent in a few states, with the greatest rates in Sabah and the Federal Territory of Labuan, which is 3.9%, Kelantan 0.9%, and Sarawak 0.9% in 2014. And since the COVID-19 pandemic happened, on the other hand, has had a it has a significant economic impact on Malaysia, particularly on disadvantaged households. Following the revision of the national poverty line in July 2020, 5.6% of Malaysian households now live in absolute poverty, according to the World Bank Malaysia 2021. The government is focusing on the well-being of the lowest 40% of the population. This low-income category is nonetheless particularly vulnerable to economic shock, rising living costs, and mounting financial demands.
Malaysia poverty rate was 5.6%, which includes 405,441 households in 2019 with the revised poverty line income (PLI). According to the Malay Mail, the Department of Statistics Malaysia (DOSM) has revised PLI from 980 ringgit to 2,208 ringgit, whereby those who earn monthly income below this level were considered as poor. Malaysia's absolute poverty rate recorded as improving compared to 7.61% in 2016. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has slammed the country's economy, whereby induced economic downturn is expected to lead to an increase in poverty rates, especially for the rural and even urban poverty. The increasing number of unemployment, small, medium, and even big companies and enterprises, as well as lower-income employees, expected to suffer greater negative impact. Many companies doing the downsizing in order to save their costs, which resulting some of the employees has lost their jobs. Consequently, many of these people fall under the PLI level, even though the PLI has been revised. The PLI components are foods, clothing, rent and utilities, medical care, transport and education. Those who are lack of these components are considered poor. Many of the people who live in the rural area are lacking of these components, whereby they have insufficient income to obtain basic necessities. Other than that, when it comes to education, they always will fall behind because they cannot afford to pay the school fee, especially in the rural area. Therefore, this poverty issue needs to be taken a serious action to decrease its number, as well as to achieve the policy to eradicate poverty.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Tiras bin Roskan. I will present about the implication of poverty. There are four implications of poverty such as terrorism, poor healthy children and homeless. The most implication of poverty is terrorism. According to Newman 2006, when people are deprived of certain resources and opportunities, resentment can grow, leading some to turn to terrorism as means of expressing their anger. In the Middle East, many societies have great potential, yet there are many citizens left without jobs, and this causes a lower standing of living. When social inequality develops, many people become angry because they are unable to achieve what others are easily able to, thus creating internal conflict within certain geographic areas and making it more likely for terrorism to occur as a result. The second implication of poverty is poor health. Poverty can contribute to hunger, poor health, and a lack of healthcare access. It is also common knowledge that those who live in congested settings such as slums and high-rise apartments are apparently at a disadvantage. Building human and social capital leads to increase and more fairly distribute wealth. Health contributes directly to reduced productivity and loss of employment. Health is a precondition for sustainable development, and good health contributes to economic development and poverty reduction. The third implication of poverty is children. Children who grow up in poverty have more chronic, frequent and health problems than children who grow up in a good families. Low birth weight is common in poor babies, and it's linked to a slew of preventable mental and physical impairments. These poor babies are not only more likely to be irritable or ill, but they are also more likely to die before reaching their first birthday. Children from low-income families are more likely to miss school due to illness. Job loss and ensuing poverty are linked to family violence, including child and elder abuse, according to studies conducted during economic downturns. For families are subjected to significantly more stress than middle class one. The last implication of poverty is homelessness, or extreme poverty carries with it particularly strong state of risk for families, especially children. Homeless children are less likely to acquire sufficient nutrition and immunization than children who live in poverty but have a home.
As a recommendation, a person can strive to solve the problem of poverty faced, and one of the effective ways to overcome poverty is through education. Education is an effective way to overcome poverty because with higher education, a person can survive from a poverty by getting a job that can guarantee a better future and economy. Next, giving help to the poor is a good way to help the less fortunate in society. However, such a method will be not able to alleviate the burden of the poor because the assistance provided either from the government, welfare agencies, or individual can only last for a short time. After that, by economic development. Economic development means the addition of goods and service offered in the market in a country. Economic development is the most effective way to overcome poverty, but it must be accompanied by a fair distribution of income in society. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund recommend economic development as the most important factor in overcoming poverty. In addition, the recommendation is community development through community development programs such as the One District, One Industry project, One Village, One Product, and the Rural Entrepreneur Program. Last but not least, free market. Milton Friedman and others propose a free market for economic development and poverty alleviation. If there is economic development, there is also a poverty reduction. If GDP grows by 1%, poverty will be reduced by 1%. As a parting words, poverty is a social problem that should be addressed by all parties. This is because it is a social responsibility that burdens all parties involved to resolve. Poverty is a serious problem and it is closely related to the problem as mentioned in part above.
To conclude, Malaysian government has running those policy for the time frame of 1970 to 1919 in order to eradicate the poverty problem in our country. Through these policies, NEP, which enforced by the Malaysian government along with the involvement by the private sectors, they certainly have tried to minimizing the incidence of poverty through a lot of kind of efforts. However, in the end, it doesn't reflect the full success which show the effectiveness of this policy on poverty eradication. Therefore, the Malaysian government still putting more efforts by solving this poverty issue in order to achieve the goal of one of Malaysian policy, which is Vision 2020. That's all from us. Thank you very much.